You can now roll to kill, or seduce, Hugh Grant in your Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
Ruthless, trained killers are just a phone call away.
While you won't be seeing any Dungeons & Dragons, the game, inside of Dungeons & Dragons, the movie, you can easily port the characters from the Dungeons & Dragons movie into your own Dungeons & Dragons campaign.
What?
You see, Wizards of the Coast has released stat blocks for the main characters of Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves via a free D&D Beyond release. And by free, we mean that you need a D&D account, which are free. Now, these aren't character sheets for player characters, but rather NPC stat blocks. Now, if you haven't taken a look at an NPC stat block lately, they might seem a little, well, strange, because Wizards has punched up NPC stat blocks over the past couple of years. For instance, Simon the Sorcerer can fire off 3 Chaos Bolt attacks per turn, which really isn't something that a spellcaster can usually do, considering that Chaos Bolt is a first-level spell. Of course, we should note that Simon's Chaos Bolt action isn't the same as a Chaos Bolt spell. For instance, you can't counterspell Simon's Chaos Bolt action because it's an action and not a spell, even though Chaos Bolt is also a spell. A little bit confusing. The most, well, interesting of the stat blocks is definitely Zenk the Paladin. You see, Zenk's attack actions are built around the use of his dagger sword, which is a longsword that has a dagger inside of it. Zenk's dagger sword has 2 forms, the long sword and the short sword / dagger combo. Each attack deals a different amount of damage based on which form Zenk's dagger sword is in. Also, Zenk can use a dagger sword flourish at the end of his multi-attack action, which either shoots off the long sword at an opponent up to 30 feet away, or inflicts disadvantage on a nearby opponent on a failed saving throw. It's a kind of a weird combo, one that tries to capture, well, whatever it is that a dagger sword does, but it kind of seems out of place for a paladin. Also, Zenk has no smites, which, well, kind of makes sense if you've read the 1D&D playtest for paladins. There's also a couple of new bits of information about the movie, specifically the backstories of some of the characters. While folks who had read the early copies of the prequel novels or read the marketing copy on the back of the various toys knew that Edgin was an ex-harper or that Doric lived in the Neverwinter Wood with elves, there's actually a pretty interesting bit about Zenk that wasn't public knowledge. You see, Zenk hails from Thay, which kind of seems obvious given the whole forehead tattoo thing, but he also has a connection to Zas Tam that seems to give him an extended lifespan. Given that Zas is the big bad of the movie, or at least that's what it seems, the biography kind of hints that Zenk might be the phylactery for Zas. The thing that houses Zas's soul and keeps Zas alive even though he's an undead lich. That could set up an interesting twist and could explain how a bunch of CR5 characters are able to take down the lich leader of the Red Wizards inside Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I guess we'll have to wait and see if that theory is correct in just a couple of weeks. So the big question for you is, are you going to use Chris Pine in your Dungeons & Dragons campaign? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.